On the third month of Christmas, Bourbon Creek Crafts gave to me a Christmas pad in my stash since 2013. So let's use this one. Hey guys, it's Beth. Welcome. This is a Hobby Lobby Paper Studio pad, been in my stash for a long time. And for my 12 months of Christmas challenge, this is a challenge I started for myself this year to get me working on Christmas projects throughout the year instead of like in big chunks either in Christmas in July or fall. I'm going to be working on it throughout the year. And it can be any type of project. Like we have a handmade business, sell at craft shows, we make home decor as well as my paper goods. So I think you've seen more home decor items so far, but this month I am going to be working on some paper projects. So I'm going to be working on the North Pole production pad. I've used bits and pieces here and there. It's a fun pad, but there are a lot of like big, busy patterns. There's some glitter to it as well, which kind of limits some of the things I probably would do with it because it's hard to, like, when you fold the glitter, it cracks. But there are some like non-glitter pages too. So I have some ideas on how I want to work through this. There were a lot of cut aparts. There are like, I think 4 of each pattern. Oh, it says 3 of each pattern, but there are like some similar patterns throughout. And then there were like several patterns of cut aparts and multiple sheets of that. So there are a ton of cut aparts. So that is what I'm working with, and gonna kind of narrow down what it is I want to do with this pad, and then can start working on it. I do want to mention Kathy, who is Stamp a Cat over on Instagram, has been doing this along with me as well. So I'll have a link to her Instagram in the description box below. So please go check her out, see what she's working with this month. So it wasn't my original plan to use up the pad, but once I got into the December dailies I decided to make, I realized I was going to be pretty close, and so I finished it off, and I will show you what I made. I did 3 December dailies. These are for me and my daughters for next Christmas. Because there were 3 of each pattern, I was going to make 3, and then I realized normally when I make a journal, I laminate the cover. But because of the glitter in this paper and just the way the paper folded, I didn't want to do my normal journal cover because it was going to look pretty rough here on the outside edges. And so what I ended up doing is I took a white business, or kind of legal, not even legal, more like an 8.5 by 11 size envelope. And so I just glued the flap down and then folded the envelope in half. And then that is kind of the base of my cover. And then I just put my pattern paper on the front and on the inside, but I left the spine open. The other reason I did that is I did not want to have to sew through a bunch of this glitter. It's already hard enough sewing through journals sometimes, and I didn't want to add that to it. So now I did fold these, but it hopefully won't be as bad as having to sew through this on the outside too. So that's how I made my cover. My other problem with doing like my normal, like 1 sheet of paper that I fold or laminate and fold into a cover was that a lot of these big, bold patterns that I thought would make good covers, the orientation was incorrect. So like this was on the left side of the page. I needed it to be on the right side of the page. So that's why, and kind of another reason why I did the cover the way I did. So I just cut, my envelope is actually it's a 9 by 12 envelope. So my pieces for the covers are all 6 by 9. And then, so I took this background is 1 full sheet. The Santa was actually over here, and so I just fussy cut him out and put him on the front of the covers. This was a separate sheet of paper, and again, he was on the wrong side, so I just fussy cut, or just trimmed down that pattern. And then this one, I just took, it's the same sheet that I just cut in half to make my pages. So I did the inside cover a little differently. So I'll flip through one journal while I talk kind of about my reasoning. The rest of the journals are pretty much the same. I created a few pockets using scraps, like this is just a smaller scrap, and I just kind of followed the line of the dot here. It was already at an angle. And then I have some like scrap pockets that I just glued down on two sides. There was a bunch of cut aparts, but I did still end up bringing in some index cards to tuck in as well. I tried to keep most of the white pages white, but I did want to add embellishments to them. I have some flip outs. I'm going to zoom you out just a tick here. And then belly bands. I brought in some white vellum. And like in some cases, I just added like a spot for journaling. Here's a double pocket that I made using scraps. This is just glued down on the bottom, kind of as a tuck spot. This was at the top of this sheet of paper right here. I couldn't fit it all together, so I just trimmed that out and added it to the top of the page, kind of backed it with some other scrap paper. This is a triple side pocket using like scrap strips. And this was actually a piece of cut aparts that I just left two together to make a bigger, and then index card on the outer one there. This one I cut down to make a folder. So I trimmed off like an inch from the side, but then left the sheet 12 inches tall, and then kind of at 3.5, 4 inches, I folded it up and then trimmed out the corners here to make a little folder. And this little flap I actually turned into a side pocket, another side pocket with the strip. So after I had gone through and made like some of these bigger embellishments, like my bigger pockets and stuff, and then when I went back through, I was trying to use up some of the scraps and just added them in as like tuck spots or side pockets. And then this is actually from the front of the pad. I tapped into that as well. So, like I said, once I realized that I was making 3, I knew that would use up the bulk of the pad, and so I decided to just keep going. Now, I realize these are not completely finished. I need to sew them, but because I decided to finish off the pad, I was running out of time, and so I will have to do that. Plus, sewing is the part I hate the most anyway. I mentioned that I had tapped into the front of the pad. There were all these little previews of the paper that were like rectangles, or this one happened to be a square. So I trimmed all of those out I trimmed them all out. Some of them I used in the journals, and then these I thought would make good Christmas tag faces. So I will need to finish those, so I got 13 tags, and then I also got 13 cards. When I cut down my journal pages, there were some that I thought would make good card mats that I just trimmed at 8 inches, so I could have a 4 by 5.25 inch piece left to do some card mats. This was just a strip that I had, and it was a little bit longer, and so I decided to put it at an angle and then just trimmed off the edges. This was the border page. I had like half a sheet of it left, and so I just made 2 card fronts. And then this one was just some scraps. So I know these, I need to finish off the fronts. They need at least a sentiment, if not some embellishments as well. These all have, the fronts are done. I just need to maybe add a sentiment on the inside. I do have scraps on the insides of all of them. These, I used up the rest of the cut aparts. I pulled in some cardstock in some cases, but for the most part, I just tried to work with the paper in the pad. I may have turned it around backwards, but I was trying to make sure I used it all. So 13 cards, 13 tags, and 3 December dailies. Now this was not a full pad. I had started it. I dug into it for a few things before. I don't remember how many sheets I started with, but there were 60 total. So there was still a lot left to work with. So that is my Christmas projects for this month. Hope you guys got some inspiration. I would like to note that I am super happy that this pad is out of my stash. It is one that I tend to flip past every time I'm looking for a Christmas pad because of all these big sheets. I did not know necessarily how to use it, or it did not fit with the project I had in mind that I wanted to do and was looking for a pad for. So I no longer have to flip past it. It is done. So yes. Sometimes it's good to go ahead and pull out those pads that you're not sure how to use, and that you continually flip past because you're not sure how to use. At least gets it out of your stash and off my mind, kind of out of that clutter in my mind as well. Again, please be sure to check out Kathy to see what she made with her Christmas, for her Christmas projects. Hope you guys got some inspiration to work on Christmas throughout this year. Thank you guys so much for your time today, and hope you all have a very crafty day.